It's just so important. This particular article is about Elon Musk and his New Year's risk taking and his Tesla gamble mindset. And the key phrase or key word here is indeed a mindset. And every CEO I've worked with, and including Musk that I haven't worked with, but also myself, is all the businesses I know start with some form of calculated risk. And our shared objective generally is to take advantage of an opportunity that we can see through some kind of innovation, some kind of opportunity, some kind of transformation or customer transformation. In this case, Musk was reinvesting his earnings, which were substantial, into an even bigger business. If you're starting up, you're converting nothing into something, which is an even bigger business. So we all do this. It's just a matter of degree. But the mindset, the attitude, the approach is the same. And although this article is all around the new year, to kickstart the new year and all that kind of thing, it can, of course, occur at any time. But it always happens at the beginning. And one of the key lessons here is not just simply the breakdown of what's involved, but the key lesson is seeing it through. So if you know the story, if you know Musk's stories, here he invested in three things: his cars, his rockets, and solar panels. Solar panels was to fund, I think, a relative's business, which I think worked out. That was their business. Tesla cars, we all know that story, certainly worked out. And of course, SpaceX has worked out. But in one point, it all got down to this third rocket, where what was left of his entire fortune was all hanging on the success or failure of that third rocket. And for him, thank goodness, it all worked out for the best. It doesn't always work out that way, of course. But seeing it through, as he did, he parlayed that 180 million into over 6.5 billion. And rising, is my understanding. But there's really these three critical keys. First is understanding of the market, or the technology in his case. He had a deep technical knowledge. But actually, if we really go into the details of it, he had an approximation of the knowledge. He actually sought out people that really did have the knowledge. In my business, I taught myself to code, and I went in front of customers, and I wasn't really selling as such. I was more asking questions. So I was teaching myself to code, not because I wanted to code. It was because I wanted to know if through code I could achieve certain things. When I established that I could, I then went and hired a coder, because the last thing I wanted to do is to get bogged down in the weeds of coding an application or systems. I really wanted to know enough, arguably, to be dangerous, right? To be able to say to someone else, you do it, I'll pay you. But for me to know enough about it to be able to critique it, to understand what was happening, and to make sure it went in the right direction, which I did, and it did, right? In terms of sales, I turned up at my initial meeting, and the client really told me what they wanted, and I really just agreed, as opposed to did a hard sell. And I walked out with an order which wasn't really what I went in there to sell. But I came out with an order which was actually the objective, i.e. have a client meeting, come out with a sale, right? And yes, afterwards, I had to work out how to deliver on that sale. I also made it perfectly clear to the customer, in his case, that what they wanted was something new and something that was close to what we knew about, and we would have to investigate. So it wasn't, a con or a switch. It was a kind of paid-for investigation that the client was fully aware of. But he believed that I knew enough, and I did know enough, and I was able to deliver on that initial order, and everything works out. But what I was doing is I was taking the knowledge or the question and then matching it with people who could do the work. I had to go and find those people and then do the work, manage the work through. So I had a lot of responsibility in this. I didn't study battery technology and automotive manufacturing processes the way that Musk did, but I did study the way websites worked when I started off as really a user of websites. I had an understanding of database systems. I had a basic understanding of server technology, etc. I had to go deeper. I then ran the business, as my clients do, as Musk has, to maintain enough control over operations to influence the outcomes, to make sure we got a delivery that was right for our customers. And then, whilst I was doing this, I was very aware of, and I advised all my customers to think in these terms, as Musk did, the different applications for the technology. The applications actually equal sales opportunities. And when you think of everything from a customer perspective, so you're not really making a rocket, you are, but you're not. You're actually creating a delivery system. I wasn't really, coding. We were, but we're not. What we were doing was satisfying clients. All right, with clients that I advise, it's not really about the service that they're providing. It's about making their customers happy. To a lot of people, that's obvious. But equally, it gets lost when you get too stuck into the weeds of the detail, and especially things like code or making things. You decide that something needs to be made in a certain way because this is the way the materials work or the code works. Okay. And, what it actually has to work is the way the customer wants it to work, which means you might have to change the materials. You might have to change the code. Okay. So, it's not necessarily as pure as you would like it if you were pure to the manufacturing or process. And that's why I use words like innovation, transformation, because we're looking to move from what is known that we can deliver to what it is that our customers want us to deliver. Absolutely key, important. So in this article, I talk about a strategic risk assessment or a blueprint. And I just ask you to write down, work it out for yourself. What unique knowledge or capabilities do you possess that others might undervalue? How can you directly influence key outcomes? And if you can't, what do you need to do in order to get to that point? So you can't be in a situation where you're 100% reliant on a third party because, you can't. Because you invariably have to change what they do to suit the customer, as I've outlined. And then lastly, what synergies? And this is really at the heart of being an entrepreneur, a business owner, is being able to see these other transformational opportunities or opportunity areas that you can transform into. And this collectively becomes your moonshot. So, and that's how I end the article. But it's not just one and done. It's when you've made this decision, when you've alighted on these three areas and you've determined where your expertise is, you do then have to see it through, as Elon Musk did. And you might well find yourself in that third rocket moment with all of your money riding on that one event. But the outcome, if you've done everything right, is that it's going to work. And sometimes it doesn't always work perfectly, but it can work well enough. And there's many times when I know that I've not always delivered 100% on the entire tick list that my customer might have wanted, but I've delivered a strong 70, 80, 90%. And maybe there's good reason why that 5, 10, 15, 20, 30% is still outstanding. And I present it to the customer on the basis that this is how far we got. And really, do they want it or not? It may not be complete, but this is how far we've got so far. Do they want to continue? Or do they want to can it? It's okay. This is just how far we got. And invariably, a customer is delighted that we got as far as even 70%. Often a customer will admit, they're saying, I'm amazed that you've done any of it. Right? That's always a delight. I've never been in a situation where a customer has not said, carry on, because I like the trajectory. Right? This is what happens in innovation and transformation. Not everything is necessarily delivered, but enough of an indication can be delivered for a customer to be delighted that progress is being made. And that often is a lot of what we look for, because when progress is being made, we all feel very comfortable about carrying on moving forward, because we might get to that moonshot, we might get to that completion of the deal, we might get to that final rocket. I mean, how many iterations, how many rockets later are we now? Different types of rockets, different sizes of rockets. Musk has still got to get to Mars at this point. But is there any doubt? Not a lot. He's still talking about it. Still looks possible. More rockets taking off increases the chances. All right, thanks for your time. Good luck with your moonshot.